this link here. On Monday, we had Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as the label given at the top. Unfortunately, the system cannot allow 3 sessions to be allowed to be entered into the meeting at the same time. So I had to split section 1.1 for Monday and section 1 for Wednesday. However, whichever section you belong, I will be sharing the link. So if you are on the list for 1 and not section 1.1 and you wanted to join the Monday session, I will be sharing the link on the Monday session, which you will be able to click and join. But if you are on the Monday section list, then you just come here, click on it, and you should be able to join the meeting. Likewise, for the ones who joined today by using this link here, it's because your name is on the list for section 1. The ones who had to use the link outside of Moodle because it put them restricted there, those ones there would then need to get the link for Wednesday session because their name is not on the Wednesday session. The Friday section is not limited for anyone. It is open. It has no section as set to it. It is just that anyone can then join the Friday section. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the reason why I'm doing it this way is because students are still moving around with their classes. And like I've said, I don't want anyone to drop their other classes because this course here is flexible as it is an asynchronous course. Okay. So if no other questions, then let me proceed into the topic. If you if you don't have any other questions, so I can't use the link. So is that clear, Catalina?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, 1 second, guys. Um, okay, so sorry about that. I'm taking part in the next workshop at the same time. So we're gonna start with our first topic here. Um, whenever whenever Sunday comes of every week, the week's topic will become available to the whole class. So this week's topic is available as of Sunday midnight, and so you should be able to get everything for the week right away. However, the way this works is as follows. You do the practice exercise, and then this will mark as complete or as done. And then you would then come, now you come to the course content first, course content 1, you go through the videos, and then you either click here if it's not marked green, or you can come here and click green, and then that means that this one here is complete, and then you can come and do practice exercise 1. You cannot do practice exercise 1 unless course content 1 has been completed. Okay? After you have done practice exercise 1, only then you can then access course content 2. And then after course content 2, you go to practice exercise 2, and then you go to course content 3, practice exercise 5, practice exercise 3. So in other words, each practice exercise is in relation to each course content. It is in small chunks of information, so that by the time you come here to the end, to the last practice exercise, you should be confident and competent to complete this assignment. This assignment will always have 2 restrictions. 1, a date, and 2, that you have completed the last practice exercise for that topic. This can be done in 1 day, this can be done in 2 days, this can be done in 3 days, this can be done in the whole week. That is up to your time that you have. For that reason, this is known as an asynchronous course, meaning then you do it at your own convenient time. So it's not as to say that you must do this Monday, this Tuesday, this Wednesday, this Thursday, and this Friday. It doesn't mean that. It simply means that you do it at your own convenient time. Is that part clear on the material for the course?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's proceed now. We have directed numbers. What are directed numbers? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. I'm going to try go through all of these, and whichever one we don't complete, then we can complete it on Friday. So this is how the course works. You can go through the course at your own convenient time. You can complete the course before the set time. So when you come to the class, you can ask me questions on this section or on this section or whatever section that you need to ask me to go over. If there is a question in the practice exercise that you did, you can just write it down which one you did not get correct, and then we can bring up that in the class. Why was it wrong? The practice exercise are shuffled all of the questions. So once, if two persons get access to the same practice exercise, they will not get the question in the same order, and the options will not be in the same order. So your question two may not be the same question two for someone else. And if you should get the same question two, the same words, the options will not be in the same order. They're gonna be shuffled. Okay. Again, this is just practice. So let us go into direct numbers. So I'm going to be opening a whiteboard. All right. So this whiteboard now opens to anyone who has a UB email who's in this meeting here. If you do not have a UB email that you log into this meeting, that means that you will not be able to take part in this. There are 27 people in this one here that can edit this whiteboard or turn sharing on. So anyone at the University of Leeds system with this link can edit. So I'm gonna turn on the sharing and we can start. Let me add to the next person in. Okay, I'm gonna accept that person in. Let's start the whiteboard. It's taking a while. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one here. The whiteboard should be available to you on your side, and also you should be able to see it on your screen. So I'm gonna enlarge the screen as well. Just tell me once you have gotten access to the whiteboard that you can see the whiteboard in front of you. Everyone with a UB email should be able to get access that is in this class right now. Okay, we're having some people. Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay, so let's start. So that's a good amount. Nevertheless, if you cannot take part on the whiteboard, at least you can see the whiteboard. So what is an integer? That's the next person in. All right, so I'm gonna back to the whiteboard. So what is an integer? An integer is any number that is with this number line. Let's use the line here. It's simply a line with a set of numbers. 0 at the center. Here we have 1. Here we have 2. Here we have 3. Here we have -1, -2, -3, etc. So this goes infinitely and this goes infinitely. We all should be familiar with the number line. If you're not, then I'm going to take it for granted that we are at blank. So we're going to start this from scratch. The number line goes from 0, positive 1, positive 2, positive 3, positive 4, infinitely. And also it goes negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, infinitely negative. In other words, the set of integers are from negative infinity to negative to positive infinity, 0 being at the center. Okay? They are all evenly divided, or in other words, evenly spaced from each other. 0 to 2 is evenly spaced from 2 to 3. So these distances are equal. They are equidistant from each other. So once we understand that, we can go to the addition of integers. Are we okay with the number line?
Yes.
Okay then, excellent. So let me lower the next value there. So the number line is okay. So we want to add integers. Adding integers is adding normal numbers. For example, if we say 3 plus 4, those are two integers. But we know them as just adding numbers. 3 plus 4. We don't say anything else. This is positive 3. This is positive 4. When we add those two numbers, we get here 7, which in this case is positive 7. So a positive plus a positive will give us a positive. Okay? Question on that one there. Or is that clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay. So this is okay. So if we add two positive numbers, we get a positive number. That is okay. Okay. Now we're going to add a positive and a no, we're going to add two negative numbers. So we have a negative 3 plus a negative 5. Let's see how this works. When we say that we accumulate on top of. When we see negative 3, we're saying here, this is the number 3. Okay? So this is the number 3, and I'm going to add negative 5. Whenever you add a negative number, or whenever you add a number which is negative to any number, you will move towards your left-hand side. So this, the addition of a negative number, will cause you to move that amount of spaces towards the left. So here we are at negative 3. Let me add some more numbers here. 5, 6. I'm gonna try squeezing as many numbers there. Okay, so if we are at negative 3 and we add negative 5, then we go 5 spaces to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so our solution will be negative 8, which is equals to negative 8. So what does this mean? If we are adding, this is the symbol here. If we are adding two negative numbers, we keep their sign and add their two absolute value. What is an absolute value? Okay, we'll explain that as well. So if we add two negative numbers, then whenever we add your microphone, Jennifer. So whenever we are adding two negative numbers, we keep the sign and simply add their two absolute values. So what is absolute? In high school, you have been told that whenever you are adding two numbers which are different signs or same sign, we always keep the sign of the highest value. That is a kind of misconception there. So we're going to be correcting that in that vocabulary in this topic. If we add two positive numbers, the result will be positive. If we add two negative number, the result will be negative. and we simply say the absolute value of 3 plus the absolute value of 5 give us 8. If you want to do it on the number line, you go to -3 on the number line, and since you're adding -5, it will go towards the left hand side. So if I was at -2, if I said +2 now plus a negative, say, 6, I have a positive value and I'm adding a negative value. So here I am at +2, which is this number here, and I add -6. Will I go towards my left hand side or towards my right hand side?
Towards the left.
Correct. So I'm going to be moving 6 spaces towards my left. So I go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is our result here, -4. So let's see how this works, okay? Because first we're starting with the number line, but I don't want you to be using number line once you're working with integers. I want you to use the concepts. So here, how do we get the -4? Here, I introduce the term absolute value. So I said absolute value. What is absolute value? Okay, we need to explain that so we can expand on this topic as well and understand it much better instead of using a number line. Why? Some people may say, sir, but I could easily draw a number line. Yes. But what if you had here 10 plus 1,000 plus a -1,000? Are we going to be doing a -1,000? No. So therefore, we need to have a concept. So here we understood that if two numbers which are positive are being added, the result will be a positive number. We just simply add the numbers. If the two numbers are being added and they're negative, we keep the sign and simply add their absolute value. Well, what is absolute value? Here is better explain what is absolute value. If we are adding a positive value plus a negative value, we keep the sign of the largest absolute value. So let me write that down here. When adding two integers of different signs, keep sign of largest absolute value. Okay, that's the key point there. It's too much there. Okay, so there we are. So that's the first part. We keep the sign of the largest value there. Then subtract the smallest from the largest value. Okay, so let's see how this works out. When adding two integers of different sign, as in this case we have a positive plus a negative, keep sign of the largest absolute value. Well, absolute simply means make them positive. What is the distance of that number from 0? When you look at the number 2 here, 2 is 2 units away from, put it here, number 2 is 2 units away from 0. When you look at number 6 or the -6 is 6 units away from 0. Okay, so this is 6 units, this is 2 units. So the absolute value of any number, or in this case +2, is +2. The absolute value of any number, which in this case is -6, will be 6. In other words, the absolute value of any number is simply the distance of the number from the value 0. The absolute value of +2 is 2. The absolute value of -6 is 6. In other words, it is just asking you, what is the distance? Are we clear on the definition of absolute value, or what should you do whenever you are looking for the absolute value of a number?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me see before I proceed. Okay, so let me continue with this piece so we get that -4. So we have done this. When adding two integers of different signs, keep the sign of the largest absolute value. Well, who's the largest value now? 2 or 6? 6. 6 is the largest absolute value. So what was the sign of the 6 before we made it absolute? It was negative.
Negative.
Excellent. So we put negative here. Okay. And then it states, then subtract the smallest from the largest. Subtract the 2 from 6. So 6 take away 2 will give us 4, and that is how we get negative 4. This is going now to the in-depth definition or a concept on how you are adding two integers of different sign. I will also explain this in a different format. But before I do that, let me give you a set of integers to work like this and tell me what's the solution. If there are no questions, how we got that negative 4. Any questions? Okay, so let me bring two integers to be added. Say for example, 4 plus negative 9. Please tell me what is the solution, or I guess you can write on the board, you can write the solution right here.
-5, sir.
Negative 5. Excellent. So let's see if the concept still applies. The concept should still apply. When adding two integers of different signs, which they are different, keep the sign of the largest absolute value. So we keep the sign. That's negative because when we say absolute 4, we end up with 4. Absolute negative 9, we end up with positive 9. So who's the largest, 4 or 9? It's 9. So we keep that sign, which is negative. Then subtract the smallest from the largest, which is 9, take away 4, which gives us 5. Okay? So that is how we do the addition of two integers of different sign. How we add integers of like sign, how we add integers of like sign, meaning whether they're positive or negative, we follow the same trend. Please take note on the idea of absolute value. Absolute value is simply the distance of the number from zero. Okay, or in other terms is that make whatever is inside of that absolute symbol positive. So if you notice here, we have open line like this vertical line 2, which is different from the brackets. Okay, we will not use the brackets for this absolute value. We're going to use the
I'm like,
vertical line to represent absolute value.
right?
Question? Question?
I know questions, sir, but I'm using a headset and probably when I move the thing.
I didn't hear you clearly at the end. You broke up.
I said, I'm sorry. I'm using a headset, and when I move the thing you speaking, it probably unmuted. I'm sorry.
Okay. So that's for absolute value. That is for adding integers. Very basic. Any question before I proceed to the multiplication or a little bit more on this topic here? Or would you like some exercise on this concept?
Sir, just a point about the absolute values.
Yes.
An absolute value of any number cannot be negative, right?
No. Any number that you put within this absolute symbol will end up as a positive value. Everything. Everything what is inside here, at the end of the day, it will be 6. If you notice, I only use single numbers, which I will be combining numbers or operations inside of the absolute symbol in a little while. But for right now, I just wanted to introduce to a single number with the absolute value sign.
Okay.
Okay, so let me take a picture of this. I'm going to be sharing this also in the group chat for the ones who may want it, so that you can go back and refer back to this information. I have here. See, there was a full text. So is so in the videos you said, uh-huh. I'll get to that right now. Please take note of it's a bracket, okay? So clear this for you. So if I have a symbol like this is the symbol for absolute value. The negative, the absolute value of negative 11 is equals to what? Anyone?
11.
11. If I have open bracket, negative 11, close bracket, this bracket is not the symbol for absolute value. This bracket is just to identify that that's a number within this bracket here. So if I put open and close bracket negative 11, it is still negative 11. If I have now a negative open bracket negative 11 close bracket equals, this is what happens. If you notice here, we have a negative. In front here, we don't see any number, but there's a number. Can somebody tell me what's the number in front here?
Is it 0?
No.
One.
1. The number 1 is right here. Once you don't see any number in front like this, it is equal to 1. 1 is understood to be there by itself. If you see an x, it is 1x. It is not saying that x is equals to 1. It is simply saying that there is only 1x. So here we have negative 1 times negative 11. So when we multiply two negatives, we are going to end with a positive 11. So if you have a negative in front of a bracket, it will make whatever is inside the negative of it. Or in other words, we are multiplying two negatives. And that is going to give us a positive 11. Okay? Are we clear on this absolute value, the brackets and brackets? This is one of the fundamental concepts that we need to understand fully as we go up the ladder in this topic. Any questions? Questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So now let me do something with this concept here. I said that whenever we have the absolute value and there's a negative number inside like this, the end result will be positive 11. So if I have now absolute value negative 2, I'm going to use the dot to represent times negative 5 times negative 3 absolute value. The way you are going to work this out is as follows. You are going to start from the left hand side towards your right hand side and work in this way. You are not just going to give me the solution. You give me the solution and it is wrong, you don't get any points. Give me the solution and you show the steps, you're liable to get points because your steps may be logical and therefore you may have done a mistake maybe at the end. And that is understood. Okay? So let's see how we work this out step by step. If we are going to start from the left hand side towards the right hand side, you're going to keep the absolute value sign. We're going to say negative 2 times negative 5 times the symbol times again 3 absolute value. So what have I done as my first step? I have identified the first two numbers which I will be multiplying by putting brackets around them, in front and at the back. Don't multiply all three at once. Do it step by step. So after I have gone this first step here by identifying which numbers, I say negative 2 times negative 5. Well, here a negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. So negative 2,
Positive 10.
positive 10. So we have here 10 times negative 3, absolute value, equals. So now we have a positive number times a negative number. A positive number, which here is 1 also because there's a positive 1 here. So a positive times a negative gives me a negative. So positive 10 times negative 3 is going to give us
Negative 30.
negative 30. Excellent. So you put that negative 30 there, vertical line, which means that's your step. We have one more step. This step here is now at this point here. We are saying the absolute value of negative 30 will then be equal to
Positive 30.
30.
positive 30. And you finish right there. So you have the first step to identify which numbers you will be multiplying, and then you get that result, and then you proceed in multiplying within the absolute value symbol, and then you then finalize your solution. Is that clear?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So again, notice a positive number times a negative number will give us a negative product. A negative number times a negative number will give us a positive product. Here we did that. Two negatives being multiplied, we get positive. A negative and a negative times a positive here, we get negative. And then we look at the absolute value and we get positive 30. You don't have to write this out if you get a problem like this to work out. You simply need to show these steps so that you get your full marks, especially for the assignments. Okay, let me copy this as well. And then let me give you guys one to do like this. So clear this frame, if no questions. So let me give you guys one. Negative 6 times negative 2 times negative 4. Go ahead and work this out and tell me what's the solution. If you could write on the whiteboard, go ahead and write the solution or your steps.
Is it 48?
48 or positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive 48. So what was the first step you did here?
Um, I and key is the negative 2 times the negative 6 and the negative 2 in brackets.
Okay. Put that there. So this is
Yeah.
what you did.
And then times negative 4 and then the next step we multiply the 6 times 2. 2 negatives equals a positive, so it will be positive 12
Okay.
times negative 4.
Excellent.
All right. A positive and a negative multiplied together gives you a negative, so it will be 12 times 4 will be negative 48.
Okay.
And the absolute value of negative 48 is positive 48 because
Excellent.
it will never be negative. Absolute values are never negative.
Okay, then. Excellent. So that is what we work on. Notice we have three numbers. Keep this in mind. Three negatives being multiplied with absolute sign, we end up back with a positive value. Let us go and multiply now without absolute values. I'm going to bring that out and we multiply to the same kind of operation, but without absolute value symbol. Okay? Go there. Clear this, not clear the frame. So let me erase this now. So if you were able to do that first part here, you should be able to do this next part here. And let's see how this works. If you are multiplying a set of integers, you will work two sets of numbers at a time. We'll start from the left-hand side towards the right-hand side for the meantime. We have a concept which is coming up as well. So we isolate the first two numbers, which is -6 times -2. You put open close bracket times the -4. -6 times -2 will give us a +2 times -4. Then +12 times -4 will give us -48. And that is your solution. So the only difference here is that because we don't have the absolute value, we don't proceed to another step to make this value here positive. So this is our final step in multiplying three negative numbers. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have seen the multiplication of numbers within an absolute sign. We have seen the multiplication of numbers without an absolute sign. I want you to keep in mind right now that you're multiplying three negative numbers. Let's see what now happens when we are multiplying only two negative numbers. -6 times -3, according to our concept, we make this positive, or two negatives multiplied will become positive. And so we say 6 times 3, which will be 18. Note this concept. Two negatives multiplied is positive. Three negatives multiplied is negative. Do we see anything here as a trend? It comes with the idea of odd values and even values. Anyone?
What was the question?
Okay, here I am multiplying three negative values, right? I end up back with a negative. Here I'm multiplying two negative values. I end up with a positive value. What do you notice there as a trend?
Nothing, sir.
Sir,
Nothing?
by starting from the left, the two negatives will give you a positive, and
Uh-huh.
then you'll remain with the -4. So the negative times the positive will equal to a negative.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So let's see what are we doing here. If I have now a -2 times a -3 times a -4 times a -5. We start from the left-hand side. -2 times -3 is going to give us +6. So we put here -2 times -3, open close bracket. We put here times -4 times -5. Our steps now goes as follows. A negative times a negative gives us a positive, which is +6 times -4 times -5. So the next step would then be to identify the next two numbers which you will be multiplying, which will be the 6 and the -4. Because of space, I'm going to cut it here and put the brackets at this point. Okay? So a positive times a negative is going to give us a -24 times a -5. So now we have a negative times a negative will give us a positive. Okay, so that negative there that we have is being multiplied, two negatives will be being a positive, and 5 times 24 will simply give us 120. Positive 120. So if you notice here, 4 negatives being multiplied end up back with a positive. 2 negatives multiplied, we end up with a positive. 3 negatives multiplied, we end up with a negative. The trend, the concept, what you should be able to understand from this part here, apart from multiplying the numbers, is that if you have an even set of negatives being multiplied, the result is positive. If you have an odd set of negative signs which are being multiplied, the result will be negative. Do you see that? There are 3 negatives with a negative. There's an odd number of numbers here, 2 numbers, and here 4 numbers. There are odd number of negative. Even number of negative, we end up with a positive result. Odd number of negatives, we end up with a negative result. Okay, this is one of the also fundamental concepts that you need to understand, because you will be having numbers being multiplied at odd values as well. Do you understand this concept here?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so let me cut this out and then bring this in a different form and ensure that you guys get this concept. Even if you don't get it this today, we can still catch up on it on Friday, and I will also be posting on the group chat some videos to explain it in much more detail as well, and some questions that you could practice getting much better. So remember, when two negatives are multiplied, the result is positive because it's even set of negatives. If four negatives are being multiplied, well, it's an even set of negatives, we end up with a positive. So when there's an odd number of negatives, we end up back with a negative. So let's see what then happens here. Yeah, if I have negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, what would be the result here?
And
Negative
negative.
1.
Right, a negative 1, because there's an odd number of negatives. These two negatives would make it a positive, times a negative makes it a negative, times another negative makes it a positive, times another negative makes it a negative. So therefore, remember, if there's an odd number of negatives, the result will be negative. If there's an even number of negatives, then the result will be positive. So let me put two numbers now. If I say negative 1 times negative 10 times negative 100, what is the result? First, give me the sign, positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. So you establish that piece first of all. And then you simply multiply 1 times 10 times 100. So the main concept here, first of all, notice if there's an odd number of negative signs being multiplied, the result will be negative. If there's an even set of negative signs being multiplied, then the result would have been positive. That is the main concept here, because we are going to be multiplying a lot of these numbers here in a little while as well. But we're going to be looking at it in the form of indices or powers. So let us go now and bring in the brackets and bring in the absolute value and mix them with this concept here as well. So let me cut out this piece here. Here we go. If we have 2 times 2 times 2, that is saying this number being multiplied 3 times itself, which can be written in the form of 2 to the third power. This 3 is the power. Let me write it here. The power, or what you call exponent. Okay? 3. The 2, in this case here, is the base. All right? So the 2 is the base. The value which is at the top here is known as its power or its exponent. So exponent spelled around. Okay. So we have a positive times a positive times a positive. We end up with a positive value for sure. So we definitely have to have an end value which is positive if we were to multiply this out. So if we have now a negative 2 times a negative 2 times a negative 2, this is written as follows. Negative 2 is a third power. The negative 2 is being multiplied itself 3 times. If you leave it in this form, it is wrong. The base here is not just 2. For you to express this in this form, you need to write a bracket here to identify that it is negative 2, which is being raised to the third power, or in other words, the negative 2 is being multiplied itself 3 times. Okay? This is different from saying negative 2 to the third power. This kind of question here comes in your exam, it comes in your assignment, it comes in your quiz, and it comes in your first test. So let's see how this works out. Negative 2 times negative 2, as we did before, that will give us negative 2 times negative 2, close bracket, times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is going to give us a positive 4 times negative 2. So we recall that a positive times a negative is going to give us a negative. So the result would then be here, negative 8. So notice what then they're saying. Negative 2 is multiplied itself 3 times. We can express that as saying negative 2, open bracket, close bracket, to the power of 3, which gives us a solution of negative 8. This one here is not saying the same thing as this. This is saying negative, open bracket, 2, close bracket, times 2, close bracket, times 2, close bracket. It is only the number 2, which is the base, which is being multiplied itself 3 times. So when we multiply this out, we know that 2 times 2 times 2 would give us 8. But because of the sign at the front, we have negative 8 as the solution. Okay? A negative number in this form raised to a power of 3, it is not the base which is negative, but only the number itself is positive, which is being raised. The negative is in front of the number. So therefore, the negative is not being multiplied itself 3 times. We know from the concept just a while ago that an odd number of negatives will give us negative. In this case here, we end up with a negative still. We are multiplying 3 negatives. In this one here, we have the number 2 being multiplied itself 3 times. And the number 2 in this case is positive, but there's a negative in front of it, so that negative makes this negative. Are we clear on these two here? You want the next example? Or let me give you one and tell me what's the solution. If I have negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, and also if I have negative 4 raised to the third power. Tell me what's the solution here. And tell me what's the solution here. Anyone gives me the solution for negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3?
Negative 27.
Excellent. This is negative 27. How about the next one?
Negative 64.
Negative 64. Excellent. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing that it is not the negative 4 which is being multiplied itself 3 times. It is only 4 which is being multiplied 3 times. But the negative in front of it makes the solution negative. In this case, we are multiplying a negative number itself 3 times. This is different from this one here. So this now brings us to the concept like this. If I have a negative 3, open close bracket, the second power, this is equals as to say negative 3 times negative 3. A negative 3 times negative 3 will give us what as a solution?
Positive 9.
How much? Positive 9. Excellent. But if I have a negative 3 now, raised to the second power, what is the solution now?
Negative 9, sir.
Negative 9.
9.
All right, negative 9. Now let's see, what are we seeing here? We are seeing from the concept a while ago that when we have an even number, no, an odd number of negatives, the result will be negative. You could see it here with numbers apart from 1 as well. When we have a number being raised to an even power, the result will be positive. In other words, we have 2 negatives being multiplied, an even set of negatives being multiplied, the result will be positive. That's the concept just a while ago. We say it right here that when we have add, we end up with negative. Okay? Here, we have a negative 3 squared. It is the 3 which is being squared, not the negative. So we say negative, and so the step would be like this. Negative 3 times 3. And so the 3 times 3 is going to give us 9. But because the negative in front, it is negative 9. Different from this one here. In this case here, the negative at the end will make it, will come back. In this case here, despite it is being raised to an even number, to an even power, it is still negative. Why? Because it is the negative which is in front of the base. In this case, the whole base is what is being multiplied itself even amount of times. Are we clear on this concept?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let me give you a brain teaser on this concept here and see how we could get this one. Okay. If I have negative 1 to 100 power equals, and I have negative 1 open close bracket to the 100 power, give me what are the two solutions. What's the solution for this first one? And what's the solution for this second one? With just the concept, you should be able to give me the number. I don't expect you guys to go and write this 100 times. I don't expect you to go and write this 100 times.
For the first one, is it positive
Positive
100?
100? No. No. Anybody else? Remember, who's being raised or who's being multiplied here?
Negative,
The
negative
negative.
100. Yeah.
No, not the negative. Remember what we did a while ago. Um, if we are raising this to that power, it is that amount of times. If we have negative 2 times negative 2, that is to that amount of times. If we have it in this form, the negative is not being multiplied. It is only the base value 2. And then we bring back the negative. In this one here, we have an even power, which is being with the base, which is being negative. So a negative times a negative will give us a positive, while here we still end up with a negative despite it is an even power. So this one here now, we all know that if it's being raised to an even power, despite the negative in front, the negative is not being affected by the 100 amount of times which is being multiplied. So the solution will definitely be negative. And 1 raised 100 times, it is not saying 1 times 100. It is saying 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 100 times. So this will give me negative 1. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll go to a second number. Can somebody tell me what would be the solution here now?
Negative 100.
Oh,
Positive 1.
positive 1. Excellent. This is saying negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. There's an even amount of negatives which is being multiplied. Okay, and since it's negative raised or negative, I mean to an even set of power, and it is the negative which is being multiplied, then we'll end up with a positive. In this case, the negative is not being raised to the 100 power. It is only the 1 which is being raised to 100 power, so we end up with 1. Because of a negative in front, it becomes negative 1. So let's see what now happens here. Negative 1 to the 101 equals, and negative 1 raised to the 101 equals. Please tell me what's the solution for here and what's the solution for this one here.
Negative 1
For which one?
for the both of them
Excellent. For both of them, we have negative 1. Can you explain to me why?
because in the first one, it's not being, the negative isn't being multiplied but the base.
Excellent.
So it will stay as 1 and the sign is negative, so that stays as negative.
Excellent.
And the other one, because it's being multiplied with the sign and the base, so
Okay.
and the exponent is an odd number, so it becomes negative.
Excellent. So this concept here, with the concept just a while ago, which we covered, is one of the fundamentals which you need to know, because you will be getting a large set of numbers multiplied, and you may just be asked, what's the end sign? So you don't have to multiply it. So if I give you a number like this, negative 1 raised to the 1001, what's the solution there?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. Excellent. If I have now negative 1 now raised to the 3004, what's the result there?
Positive 1.
Positive 1. So it's very straightforward. In other words, once the base is being raised to an even power and the base is negative, it is positive. Once the base, it is not negative, it is a sign in front of the base which is negative. It's being raised to an odd power, we'll still give the sign of the front part. So it is the base which is being raised to an odd power, but because of the negative in front, it ends up back with a negative. Okay? So make sure you remember these concepts here because that is the fundamentals that we need for us to proceed in the topics. So if you had gone through the course content and practice exercise, you will have found problems like this, and then I want you to bring them into the classroom and ask about it. How do you work it out? How is it that we get this particular solution? Okay. Any questions?
Sir, so
Yes.
what if it is a even number, it will be positive?
Okay. If it's being raised to an even number, to an even power, and it is being enclosed in brackets, that negative value here is being multiplied even amount of times. So therefore, it will be positive. If it's enclosed, a negative value is enclosed to an odd number of power, it will be negative. In this case here, the concept is the same thing, except that here, the negative has nothing to do with this one here. The one here is positive. The negative is in front of the one. In this one here, the negative is still in front of the one despite it is raised to an even power. The sign is not affected by that even power. In this case, the base is negative, which is being raised to an even power. Why? Because it is enclosed in brackets as well. Okay?
Sir.
All right. So before we cut out, let me get the attendance for the class. I usually take attendance in this form. Take a screenshot of who all are present. So that shows us proof that you were in the class and you may be from a different teacher section. So I would show them, you know what, person A was in the class. So therefore, you need to mark the person's attendance as being present. Okay. Again, we are working with the situation of who will be in what section because of your schedule. I don't want you guys to go and drop any major subject that you have to come to my class. I'm not saying maths is not important or that it is a less important class, but simply because we can accommodate you, because it wouldn't be fair that you drop one of your valuable classes and you did not know what would have been the schedule for this class, because none of you knew what would have been the schedule. Okay, you only registered to a certain section. So we need to be as flexible as possible to you so we can provide you the best service that we can give you. Okay, now before we cut out, I want to show you also about the attendance book. In the attendance book for tonight, the ones who are not in section 1.1, you will not find your name on that list. So this is what I'm going to do. We have 3 sessions for the week. You are only responsible for the session that pertains to your registration. So if you cannot make it on the time that you registered for that section, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the time or the date when you did make it and take that attendance for you in this form, as you can see, and then I will put you to have been present the amount of times that you would have been if you had been attending your session. Why could you not attend your session that you were assigned? Was because of the time which may have clashed with the next subject on your schedule. Okay? So I'm not so sure if that is clear. If it's not clear, let me know so I could explain it.
Sir, I
Yes,
have a Friday session with Miss Young, who is actually my teacher, at midday. If I do that session, I don't have to do your session in the evening, right?
correct. But my door is open. If you need more practice, you're welcome to join.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Because every teacher got an amount, and I know that some of you may not be able to go to that session because it may clash you with some other responsibility. And so, to try to be flexible, I want that you find the best schedule that can fit you, and then by next week, I should know who's in what section or what section can they reach, and then I will try transfer your record to that section so that when the teacher checks his or her section, they can find you on their list. Take for example, let me bring up the attendance book. In the attendance book for today, you notice I have virtual section 1.1. So for Monday, people don't need the link. They can just come here and click here and they will be able to join, the ones who are in section 1.1. But the ones who are in section 1, no, the ones who are in section, this is section 1. This should have been section 1. So I need to, oh yeah, this is section 1.1. So if you're in section 1.1, you should be able to just to come click here and get into the meeting. But the ones who are in section 1, they will need to get the link. So if they come here, it's going to tell them restricted because you don't belong to section 1.1. So in order to facilitate this or avoid this kind of issues, I could go and transfer your information from the office that you belong to section 1.1. But before I do that, if it's going to be a lot of trouble, I want you to first see what section you definitely want me to take your attendance for sure. At least one attendance for the week, but you're welcome to all three. Because sometimes you may need some more practice. You may have gone to a live session. You might forget a question that you wanted to ask, and then you remember. Then you're welcome in this section. Okay. So for today, the people who are in section 1, they were able to join right from here, or they could have used the link as well. If you are from the Monday section and you came here, you would not have been able to join because you do not belong to section 1. So you will need the link for today's meeting. The Friday section has no limitation. Anyone can join. So anyone can just come here and click and get into the meeting. So it is open. So let's say on Friday you still have you're struggling with your assignment. Remember, your assignment is not due Friday night. So what you can do, you can come on Friday and we can discuss your assignment. I'm not going to be working out the same problems of the assignment, but I'm going to be working around the concept of the problems for the assignment so that you get a better understanding. Okay? And this is open for the whole class.
Okay, sure.
Okay? So when you guys come, if I come to this one here for today, I will click here attendance, and I will only be able to see the people who are in section 1 for today. Only their names. And they can come here, excuse me, they can come here and take their attendance. So all this that they can do is click here. But for this week, I'm excusing you from the attendance because you might be moving around from one section to the next. So the list might be changing as you move around. Okay. But by next week, I hope we can establish, because students are still joining, and there are students whom are also doing the e-orientation, which have not finished, and therefore they cannot jump into the class. So I have shared a link for everyone to join, or for the ones that belong to Mr. Paz, join with Mr. Paz, the one with Mr. Norales with Mr. Norales, the one with Miss Lewis with Miss Lewis, and the ones in my section to join my section. If you notice, my section has only one big chat, so you can be from both sections. Whatever I share as extra notes in my section, I also going to share it for the whole class in the big group chat. Whatever, I will not keep it only to my section, but sometimes when we're discussing assignments or corrections, and if you are the crowd that is coming more to my section and you're not coming to my section, but you're coming to some other teacher section, maybe the teacher might be checking and they may expect to see the assignment in a certain format. Then that is what you will need to be submitting. But at the end of the day, all the material that you need for the class is right here. All the practice exercise is right here, and as well as the grade assessments are right here in the section course assessment. Please remember that the course assessment becomes available after two conditions: that you have met a certain day and that you have completed the last practice exercise of that topic. Okay, so those are the two conditions. Why? Because by this I know that you may have had then time to have asked questions. You must have met certain teacher by now, either the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday session. The only one I think is for Friday, for Miss Young on Friday and for Miss Lewis on Thursday. So you can jump into the today's session, jump into Monday session, and get an idea so that you get advanced as well. So when you go to their section, you could ask questions on certain parts of the course content or the practice exercise to get clarified why is it that you got a particular one wrong. So what we did today, we did directing numbers introduction, addition, subtraction basically, and multiplication. Division we did not reach. I'm going to be touching division on Friday, and I'm going to be recapping everything as well. And I welcome questions from the assignment that so that we can threshold whatever concept you may not have gotten or you still need more clearance. Also, that doesn't mean that the WhatsApp group is closed. I'm just saying this information so that if you have any questions, then you can ask in the group chat as well. Okay? My policy is 24/7 open door for anyone. Also try complete your introduction, please, so we get to see who all are here. I believe almost everyone from my section, they should have gotten a response by now from every teacher. And the ones who are in my list, they should have gotten a response as well. So just basic stuff that we want to make sure that everyone is following everything. And again, if for whatever reason something happens with your account, please let me know as quick as possible. You have my numbers. Just reach out to me. If I don't answer you right away, it's because I'm doing with some other workshops at the same time. Okay? Any questions from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, so everything is straight. And remember, guys, my number, you can ask questions in there as well, okay? Ruben.
Excuse me, sir. For the sections we covered today, can we mark that as done?
Yes, you could go ahead and mark it this way. This is where you will decide. Say, for example, you wanted to mark this, you could go ahead and mark this. But I would encourage you to watch the videos because the videos goes much more in detail. All of the videos could be found in my YouTube channel. I have uploaded everything up there. So you could go and subscribe to that channel and you will see all of the videos one behind each other. Okay? But
Okay,
in the
thanks, sir.
videos I go much more in detail and with much more time and also with writing and so forth. Next week we'll be having much more interactive activities where I will be sending you an activity on the same meeting like right here. You will be getting a link and you take part on the assessment, practice assessment to see how well you grasp that concept which I would have explained just a while ago. So like this week's concept is primarily like just an idea, recapping of what you should know before we go into next week's topic. It is only 15 weeks. It's going to be a very fast week, guys. We have a lot of interruptions coming our way.
Okay, thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Although our time says from 7 to 8:15, that doesn't, I mean, 7 to 8:15 means I don't stay exactly to the second. If we need to go over time, let us go over time. If we need to go way up to 10 o'clock, you get the concept, let us go up to 10 o'clock. That's up to you. Yes, Brian.
I had a question regarding to the to the graded assignment, right? The course
Yes.
assessment.
Yes.
In my model page, it's marking that from 18 of August. It means today, right?
Oh, it becomes available today, but that doesn't mean you have to do it today.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and like I told you guys, I have to push this assignment more backwards for it to be submitted. The reason why, There are people who have just joined today the class. There are people who are still joining, and there are people who are still navigating within the platform. I've said from the beginning that this course is not a stressful course in the sense that we are not going to stress you here. We are going to teach you here. So if I was to tell you that this is due Friday and I know you're still struggling and navigating on the platform, it wouldn't be fair to you. So to give you more time in navigating, as I said in the group chat, on Saturday at 3 o'clock, I will be sharing a link in the big group chat that if you want to join on how to navigate the platform, I'll be showing you how to navigate within the platform. And if we need to go extra maths there too, we go extra maths too as well. If you're not happy, I'm not happy. If you guys are not comfortable, I'm not comfortable. If you all are stressed out, I am not stressed out, but I want you to get stress free. So therefore, I need to help you not to get stressed. And I will be intervening in as much as possible to assist you guys. Yes, Kyra.
Yes, sir. I have a question regarding the attendance. You said we could go and mark it ourselves,
Yes.
but what if we want to join the session Monday, Wednesday, and Friday?
Uh-huh. So if you notice, because you want to join the 3 sessions, you would not be able to mark on the 3 times because your session would not fall the 3 times. It will only fall under one section. But what I would do, if you notice, I took pictures of the attendance, right? So I have my book on this side where I actually go and I write down, oh, Kyra was here today, Richard was here today, Kiana was here today. And so if by chance you should miss one session, I know you had attended an extra session. So I'm going to take that extra session that you attended and put it where you were then absent so that you get, if you should need any points or anything as incentive for being present, then there it comes in.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Sir, so if I am attend all 3 sessions and I wanted to mark a 1 day on the attendance sheet, and I picked Monday because that was the comfortable day for me to mark it. Will that will that be
Possible?
will that no, as in like will that mark me in the attendance sheet for the whole week even though I attend the other 2?
Okay, in the system, it will only mark you for the session that you should have attended. But on my book, which I have, I would mark you the 3 times that you attended, so that the day you do not attend a session, then I could use that attendance that you did to replace your time when you were absent. No, I am not saying that attend 3 sessions and miss 3 sessions. Okay, the more you attend, the more practice you guys will be getting and more exposed to the class. But you're only responsible for one time, which is to your section that you were registered to.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Okay. Any other question? Yes, I will always be recording the session. So as of the moment we start the section of teaching, then I would start do the recording to the point